Everyone, hope you're all well, and thanks very much for all the support with my videos, the likes, shares and comments. I'm very grateful, and thanks to everybody who's pressed subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Very grateful and appreciative of all the people who support my page as well. I'm very grateful. And today I want to speak about what's been going on here in Ireland, about the latest in the European elections and a couple of the ramifications in terms of the drive towards more militarism in the European Union, also as well in relation to those election results that came in over the last number of days. Last night we saw the election results being announced in Dublin for the MEP, and the four elected were Regina Doherty, Ursula von der Leyen Jr. of Fine Gael. We had Barry Andrews, famous for his tagline "Europe Matters." What kind of Europe matters? Of course, the warmongering Europe and the neoliberal Europe that Barry Andrews stands for as well. He got elected in Dublin. We also had an election of Lynn Boylan of Sinn Féin was elected, and we also had an election of fourth candidate was Aidan O'Riordan of the Labour Party. That they're about as left-wing as Margaret Thatcher, the Labour Party in Ireland. They're very much fully part of the establishment. Now, huge transfers came from Kieran Cuff of the Green Party to Aidan O'Riordan to get him over the line. And yes man for the corrupt Irish political establishment. Noel Boylan, the broadcaster, just missed out on a seat, was quite close to getting a seat, but all the huge overwhelming transfers that came from Kieran Cuff, over 16,000 transfers came from Cuff to O'Riordan and put him over the line. But a big upset was the defeat of Claire Daly. Claire Daly has been one of the strongest proponents for peace, anti-war, pushing Irish neutrality on an international stage. And for her speaking out, she's been called all kinds of things, such as a Putin puppet and all this type of nonsense. But we know the truth behind it as well. But Claire Daly is a big loss in terms of internationally, in terms of the strive for peace, the strive for Irish neutrality, and a hugely strong voice against the military-industrial complex and against the ever-encroaching move towards militarism in the European Union. Now this is very important because we've seen the warmongers being elected, the wannabe warmongers being elected in the European elections. We've seen three of them are very staunch, very much proceeding with the war in Ukraine. Now Sinn Féin, who knows where they stand on the war in Ukraine, but again, they flip-flop on so many issues all the time, so it's hard to know what sort of position they've taken on all this. But of course in Ireland, nobody tells the truth about the war in Ukraine. They don't talk about the Minsk agreements. They don't talk about the Istanbul agreement that was kiboshed by Boris Johnson. They don't talk about the 11 or 12 trillion dollars of mineral resources in Ukraine. They don't talk about the banning of elections in Ukraine. They don't talk about BlackRock making huge profits from Ukraine. They don't talk about the misery and the deaths of many people who are dying in Ukraine, in the trenches as well. And they don't talk about the banning of elections. They don't talk about the banning of political opposition and the banning of Russian Orthodox Church also in Ukraine. But again, this goes against the narrative. They don't talk about the Banderites and the neo-Nazis in Ukraine. But it's all about freedom and democracy, isn't it? Freedom and democracy are values. And as Barry Andrews would say, Europe matters. But what kind of Europe? Europe started as a peace project, and it's gone off into this tangent where it's become more centralised control. 70% of the power and legislation comes from the European Commission. And this comes from big lobbyists, big corporations, multinationals, and the billionaires who profit majorly from the crises we all face currently and well into the future. But in Ireland in particular, we've seen a drive towards more militarism. We've seen von der Leyen now looking at a second term as the head of the European Commission. Of course, he's unelected, but when does that ever matter? When there's a power-hungry imperial power that wants to take more control and bow down to their bosses in Washington DC rather than serving the interests of ordinary people. And as I said, Europe was started as a peace project, and it's moved a billion miles from that peace project with the policies of the neoliberal policies and the huge devastation that's created in Ireland with the bank bailout as well in the years of austerity. As I've said, we've seen a huge drive towards more militarism in the European Union and a drive here in Ireland away from our much regarded neutrality. Now, Shannon Airport has been used as an Air Force base for the United States for many years. Of course, this is a huge erosion of our neutrality. NATO warships have entered Irish ports over the last number of years in particular. Probably up to a dozen ships have entered Irish ports. Again, another clear breach of our neutrality. The patrol of our skies are by the British RAF. Again, our ports are not being controlled. We can see that with all the stuff that's happening with the immigration chaos also as well. And there's been huge underinvestment in our defence forces as well, because more and more people are leaving the Navy and the defence forces because of poor pay and conditions. So in the context of all this, we can see the European Union still driving towards a confrontation with Russia on behest of the United States again, and they're trying to erode the triple lock, which means that 12 personnel can be sent on a foreign deployment on the basis of before it was on the basis of a UN mandate, but they want to get rid of that and they want to just give it government's approval. And we know with the government, who are all yes men for Europe, as Barry Andrews would say, Europe matters. What kind of Europe? But the Europe we know Barry Andrews stands for. A lot of people here in Ireland have support, which is just lunacy. But they're driving us towards more war. And they've done this with the European Peace Facility, where they've given lethal weapons training to Ukrainian soldiers. Now, this has been talked about quite a number of times, but in fact, this has taken place. And they're not talking about it again in the media, but again, lethal weapons training is taking place. This was mentioned a number of months ago in a newspaper article. And again, you know, there's no clarification coming from the Irish Defence Forces on this again. But this is a clear breach of our neutrality again. But when does that matter? When Europe matters, isn't it? The 11 or 12 trillion dollars worth of minerals and resources in Ukraine. The Lindsey Graham, the warmonger from the US, mentioned a number of days ago as well. And also the battle groups that Ireland have been involved with as well, the European battle groups for many years. We've been involved with the PESCO deal and NATO's so-called Partnership for Peace since 1999. NATO, Partnership for Peace. That's a little bit ironic, isn't it? NATO, with all their incursions and invasions into Yugoslavia, illegal attacks and horrific attacks on people in Yugoslavia. We've seen that also with Syria, we've seen it with Iraq, most notably Afghanistan, many more countries as well. So this Partnership for Peace that Ireland will be involved with. And we have Sean Clancy, the Chief of Staff of the Irish Defence Forces, who's the head of the new European Union military group, again, which is again another erosion of our neutrality. And this all started with the consultative forum that took place last year, the Sham Forum, and this was all just a ready-up done to move us towards more militarism and claim this threat, inverted commas threat. And we've seen this also with the European Union military initiative, and now they're looking at seabed infrastructure to prevent sabotage and terrorist attacks. And of course, disinformation, that's crucial, isn't it, in this new narrative with Commission and Amman. And also, they're starting this act in support of ammo production. And if you take all the first letters from those words, that's called ASAP. So they want money ASAP. And Ireland are aimed to contribute up to €12 million in this €1 billion fund for all the ammo supplies that have been depleted because of the war of Ukraine. So it's a military industrial complex. They're making huge money and upping the increase in defence spending, inverted commas defence spending. We know it's MIC spending up to 2% of GDP. NATO have recommended at least 2%. Currently Ireland spend about 0.3% of GDP on our military budget. But again, they want to use more weapons, more arms as well. And this is part of the project. So this is what you get when you vote for Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and all those parties, and the Labour Party as well. Aidan O'Riordan, who also said that he wants to support Ukraine to victory. So this is what victory really means, when they send our sons and daughters and young people off to war and die in a war in the name of democracy and freedom, which Lindsey Graham quickly said wasn't. In Ukraine, as he built up this confrontation. And this is a huge plan to give more weapons and arms across, again, to profit the military-industrial complex. So this is the Europe we're moving towards. This is the Europe we're driving towards. And I've always spoken out against it, because we need more people standing up for peace, standing up on an anti-war platform. And it's crucially important in the Irish Constitution. It states that we should seek pacific settlements to international disputes. But we see with these warmongers and these spin doctors in the media pushing this narrative all the time Rather than pushing for peace and pushing for diplomacy, Ireland are joining up with their friends in Europe, like Ursula von der Leyen, who Regina Doherty now is going to fully support with European People's Party as a newly elected MEP for Dublin, which I'm ashamed to call. People like that representing our interests in Europe. And again, Frances Fitzgerald had a great conversation with von der Leyen yesterday about this as well, about the jumping with joy. But again, we know apathy is infused into the system. We've spoken in a previous video about that, but it's crucially important people now get organised and stand up against what's going on, and that's very important to go and use their vote when the vote elections come up. And don't be apathy. They want you to feel powerless. They want you to feel apathy. They want you to feel disengaged and disconnected. It's time to get people to be connected, be engaged in what's going on, because it's young people that we sent off to die in these wars. In the name of what? Democracy and freedom? Nonsense. It's in the name of power, control, and pushing their agenda rather than pushing the needs of ordinary people. More the neoliberal policies, which has destroyed our society in terms of inequalities, in terms of more people in poverty, homelessness, and all the devastation that's come with that, and the war in Ukraine also as well, in terms of the immigration chaos, and also the huge sky-high energy bills as well that people are paying through the nose for, with the cost of living disaster we have in Ireland again. Who benefits? The super rich, but again, a lot of people following on with this narrative. So the hard wiring of voting for these parties needs to stop. You need to know what they're standing for. It's not fluffy, it's not nice, it's all moving towards more militarism. We need politicians to stand up for peace, politicians to stand up for the interests of people here in Ireland as well, because what happens internationally has huge ramifications on us here domestically and locally in Ireland, and it's important to keep connecting what's going on. So thanks a lot for the support with my videos, I appreciate it. Thanks for the shares, likes, comments. If you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please subscribe, and I appreciate everybody who has. And also, if you want to support my work through Buy Me a Coffee, I'm very grateful if you can. A link will be in the comments at the end of this video as well. So from Dublin today, take care. I'll talk to you all soon. Salam, bye bye.